Hi, as you know, I am Kaylin, and today we're going to be learning how to add, subtract, and override the daily hours, and then also payroll hours. Now, sometimes there is an occasion where you need to go and change the employee's hours. There's two different ways that you can do this. You can either then, if we go and browse to the employee, we go on our daily hours. Let's just check here. You've got this day that he's short. Now, you can either go and adjust his clockings, which if we change this clocking to 4 o'clock, it'll obviously recalculate his hours and give him, say, 7 hours there. Or then you can go and add hours in the daily hours window. Now this gets done if you highlight that day and you click on the add button at the bottom. It'll bring up the update daily hours window. Yeah, you can then go and specify, just confirm that your employee is correct, confirm that the date that you want to add the hours for has been selected. In this case, I want to add hours for the 5th of June, so I'm going to change this date then to the Wednesday, 5th of June. It asks you, what do you want to do? Do you want to add hours? Do you want to subtract these hours, or do you want to override these hours? We'll get to the overriding part a little bit later. Add and subtract is pretty self-explanatory. You either want to go and add hours or subtract them. In this case, I want to go and add hours. I want his normal hours to be 8 hours. So I would then go into my normal category, and we change this to 1 hour 30. So that'll give him an extra hour and 30 minutes there. Unless you're using job costing, you don't have to worry about that tab. And unless you've got different rates, you can then go and specify the different rates here. Generally, your rate would always be the normal or just then A or NT. So we click on OK, and we'll see that it'll add a manual entry for the 5th. It shows there that it's a hand and that it's been added. Now this will always be 2 lines. It's never going to combine that in one. But once you actually go to your payroll hours, I'm going to quickly go back to that, you will see then obviously the effect taken in here. You've, depending on what rules you've got, in terms of balancing and all that stuff, it'll obviously then take that extra, hour and a half into account and either then give him more overtime if his hours, if it took from overtime to fill his hours or not. You can also then go and override daily hours. So if you go on daily hours again, and let's go and choose actually somebody else. I'm going to choose this employee, and we're going to go to daily hours, and I am going to go and override this hours to give him 8 hours as well. So instead of going to go and add and work out, how many minutes and hours we must add here, I'm going to go and click on add, but this time I'm going to select the override option. Now basically what override does is it tells the system, ignore anything that you have calculated, in terms of the clockings and the rules there, and give him exactly this. So I'm going to go and select the 5th again. In this case I want to give him 8 hours for normal again, but I also want to give him an hour overtime 1.5. So because you're actually overriding the entire transaction, you're not only going to put in normal time, because it's not that you're only overriding normal time, you're overriding the whole transaction. So in this case, we're going to put another 1 hour in our overtime 1.5. Make sure your dates are right, employees, all that jazz, and it's approved. We click on OK, and we'll immediately see there's a little, like a silver circle there. That indicates a record that has been overridden. Okay, so we can see that this employee now has 8 hours normal, 1 hour overtime. Once again, it does not go and delete this line that's been calculated by the system. But if we go to payroll hours again, once it has actually calculated, it'll then give him his full rounded total there. You don't have our few minutes there. You can also go override payroll hours. So this works pretty much the same as your daily hours. If we click on add, it's going to bring up the update payroll hours screen, which looks the same as the daily hours. Once again, please make sure of your date. Now this date is very important in the sense that it needs to be the period ending date. So for argument's sake, the 5th was short 1 hour. You're not going to go and set this to the 5th of June. You need to set this date to the date that you see in the window, in the background here. So we need to make sure that we're going to add this for the 9th. Now what happens if you don't select the correct date there? Basically it's not going to pull through to your payroll. because your payroll, your period ending is the 9th of June in this case, and you're going to go and add hours as a new payroll for the 5th of June. So it's extremely important to make sure this date is your period ending date. Once again, you would specify whether you want to add hours or whether you want to subtract those hours, or then whether you want to go and override hours. So I've got two options here again. I can either go and say, okay, I want this guy to have 40 hours normal. Let's work that out. Okay, it's so many hours. Or else I can just simply go and say override, and I can go and give him 40 hours normal. Now remember, you're overriding the whole transaction here, which means that you're going to have to, if there was any overtime here, you need to also go and enter that. Obviously, your hold categories is generally when you've got overtime authorization, so you wouldn't worry about that too much unless it's been authorized into your overtime columns. In this case, I just want to give him 40 hours normal. We click on OK, and we can see that it's been an override record, and he now gets his 40 hours normal. And that is pretty much adding and subtracting those hours. We can just go through a subtraction transaction, let's put it that way, and let's say for argument's sake this day we want him to only earn 7 hours. So we click on the add button again because we want to add daily hours, or add a record rather, but we want this record to be subtracted. So we want these hours, if we go and select our date for the 6th, make sure that's right, our employee is correct, we want to actually subtract those hours, and I'm going to specify I wanted him to have 6 hours, so I want to subtract 2 hours. Once I've done that, you will see it'll show a little minus sign, and that will obviously be taken into account for his payroll hours. If we just go back now to payroll hours, let's go and check. Obviously I had an override record there, but you'll see last it was 23 hours, with minus 2 hours, it's now 21 hours. So that is how to edit your hours. Like I say, you can also edit clockings if that you feel that is a little bit easier. Depends on your company setup and you know which way you know your manager and that likes to see it. Do they like you editing the clockings, or would they rather have you adjust the daily or payroll hours? I hope you've learned something. It was a short session today, but we'll see you next time. Thank you.